right. Well, now we can get, I guess, to the main story of the evening, and that is Sons of Liberty Gunworks being accused of some shenanigans, bad behavior, let's say. Let me blow this up for you, gentlemen, so you guys can see this a little bit better. This is from Veil Solutions. Why did you end your partnership with Sons of Liberty Gunworks? So, when the owners lie to you, employees lie to customers about products, timelines, and 100 other things, talk shit to me, to other major companies in the industry who come back and tell me, never a good look, insult my religion, my family, and friends. They also couldn't pay their bills and owed money for months on end. Then they talk shit about all my friends, the officers and agencies I was working with, and lie to them about me. Makes you kind of not want to work there. So this is Christopher Woomy of Veil Solutions, who is writing this semi-expose on Sons of Liberty Gunworks, and it will continue. I should have quit being their creative director sooner. So again, this gentleman was the creative director at Sons of Liberty Gunworks. So if you like a lot of their content, a lot of their marketing material, of some of their packaging stuff, that was all this guy. So I should have quit being their creative director sooner. I stepped down in December. The guys in the shop are great Americans and good friends. I was told there might be changes being made. There weren't. Morally and ethically, the lack of leadership and daily bullshit caused me to leave. One owner had me blocked on all social media while I was the director there, even when the Tomahawk rifle, which is, I believe, something he worked on, was the #1 SKU in 2024. And don't worry, I have proof of all of this. My lawyer said as long as it's true, I can say it. So he seems to be pretty happy to trash the company with the apparent existence of receipts. Again, this is their former marketing director, Chris Woomer of Veil Solutions. He also expounded on some of this stuff, which I think is important. Before we move on to that, though, I do want to say that it's not really just drama when a big company in the industry is allegedly lying to their customers about products, not paying their own vendors or whatnot, and some of the other things that are going on. Because if any of this stuff is true, which again, you don't need to believe it one way or the other. This guy seems to be pretty adamant that it is, obviously, but this is his side of the story. And I did reach out to Sons of Liberty Gunworks and this gentleman, Mr. Woomy, as well, and haven't gotten anything back yet. But if anything does happen, I will let you know. But I think it is more than just like industry drama. If some of this stuff is true, then Sons of Liberty Gunworks, who has a pretty spotless reputation, they have a really good rep with people, with customers. Their warranty is really good. Their policy when it comes to like defensive shootings or whatnot is very good. So people like Sons of Liberty Gunworks quite a bit. I mean, they have a good reputation up until this point. So I think if they're lying to their customers that built their reputation and built their success, for me, that's a problem, right? Just a simple question somebody asks on this Facebook profile: what does Sons of Liberty Gunworks lie about to customers? Josh Child says one of the biggest issues is when they did the first big release of Tomahawk rifles, they oversold them, meaning they sold more rifles than they had rifles to sell. So customers who ordered new expensive rifles were sent guns assembled out of blems to meet the number of rifles sold. Then when asked why they were sent a blem rifle, they said they could take it up with Veil, who very clearly did not assemble the rifle. So they allegedly, let's say they sold 1,500 rifles, only had 1,200 on hand, and they were like, well, we need to get 300 more rifles. So whatever seconds and scraps we can throw together to get rifles out to customers, that's what we're going to do. Which again, when we're talking about a nearly $2,000 rifle, I believe in the Tomahawk's case, not very cool. And then allegedly blaming Veil Solutions, who wasn't even involved in that specific aspect of the business, why their builds were messed up, instead of taking responsibility after you've already taken the customer's money. Kind of a scummy thing to do. Now, Christopher Woomer, who is again Veil Solutions, says they lied about having the A100 bolts finished. They hadn't been sourced. They hadn't even been sourced, and the initial post a year early was photoshopped. So lying to customers with photoshopped images saying that things were ready. All right. They lied about we do this for civilian when they were wasting tons of money on bar tabs, and hotel stays in places to win contracts. That's what a lot of these companies do when they expand, is they build their base off of the civilians back, and then take that money to market to government contracts, whether that's LE or military or whatnot. So it's like, we're super Second Amendment, absolutist guys, whatnot. We only care about you. And then as soon as they get a sniff of the government contract, they're like, well, actually, I'm fine selling to FRT and CIA and ATF or whatever else it might be, right?
Yeah, when a company has builds themselves on a civilian line, and then all of a sudden on their website, you see a law enforcement and military only tab where you can't buy it unless you're one of those things. Pretty cringe of them.
They will sell you down the river for a law enforcement or military contract. Don't get it twisted.
He goes on. All the lies about the 6mm max ammo, which is something that has been hyped for over a year now, probably even longer, saying that it was being produced and going to dealers when I hadn't even gotten samples of packaging I designed. So them saying, hey guys, 6mm max, it's coming. It's going to be the next best thing. It's going to be amazing. It's right around the corner. It's already being made. And it's like, no, it's not. We don't even have anything in stock for it, right? And I still get questions. Not every live stream, but if we're ever talking about ammo, 6mm max comes up without, what about this? It looks so cool. Sons of Liberty Gunworks says it's the next best thing. Listen, you can hit this and this number on paper. And it's like, yeah, sure, but it doesn't actually exist.
If it were real, who knows?
Now, this is allegedly a text from Mike, the owner of Sons of Liberty Gunworks, to Christopher Woomy. And it's very aggressive. Yeah, viewer discretion is advised. In this case, I find this is something that is very rough that I would never tell somebody. So he says, tell your, to F his mother. And then his response, I hope you get a chance to tell me this in person sometime. What a terrible thing to say to somebody, even somebody that you're diametrically opposed to. Like, wild thing for Mr. Mike to say. Maybe you should lay down the alcohol a little bit. Nick Boris on this post says, who gives a shit? And then Christopher Woomer replies, says, well, since I was one of the only competent people working on projects with you at Sons, so Nick Boris is another one of those people that was working with him at Sons of Liberty Gunworks, you should care. Remember, I was a creative director helping with the muzzle devices. And then he responds, and I appreciate that, but why drag a corporate drama into social media? That's my point. No one wins. Well, again, it's not just corporate drama. If you're lying to customers who paid you $2,000 for a rifle, suddenly they have a right to know if that rifle that they bought was made out of blems that they didn't pay for, or made out of brand new components that they were promised when they handed you a large sum of money.
It stops being drama and starts being like a concern to the consumer when your shitty practice affects the people that are spending their money on your company.
Christopher Woomer says, I didn't make the post. I was asked a question and I answered honestly, and someone reposted it here. Don't act like you don't know about all the issues and bullshit. You gotta deal with them. Lying to the customers is a problem, 100%. Saying one thing on social and doing another is a problem. If people really knew what happened, then they wouldn't buy their guns. And that's really what it means. When somebody at the company is like, guys, this is just drama. We want to quiet this down. What they mean is, guys, this is really going to hurt our brand if this goes out. If people learn about all the bad things that we're doing behind the scenes, then they wouldn't buy our product. So that's it's like, yeah, you can call that drama if you want, but maybe it's just people pointing out your scumbag behavior, allegedly, if any of this is true. And again, I would take it all with a little bit of a grain of salt. We could be dealing, if I'm going to take the other side of the argument, we could be dealing with a spurned employee, right? Somebody who's not happy with the way that their contract ended out, maybe not happy with the job in general or whatnot. But again, allegedly, if we go back over this for the people that just arrived, why did your partnership end with Sons of Liberty Gunworks? In reference to Christopher Woomer of Veil Solutions, who has lots of stuff on the internet. You can go find interviews with him and whatnot and find out more about that gentleman if you would like. But he responds, when the owners lie to you, employees lie to customers about products, timelines, and 100 other things, talk shit about me to other major companies in the industry who come back and tell me, insult my religion, which he allegedly has that text from Mike that shows exactly that. My family and my friends, they also couldn't pay their bills and owed me money for months on end. That's a really big deal as well if you can't pay your employees. We hear this from precision. Yeah, I know. It's like, all right, get in line with the other 12 companies not paying their money that they owe. My friends, the officers and agencies I was working with, and lie to them about me makes you kind of not want to work there. Yeah, sounds like a bad work environment. I should have quit being their creative director sooner. I stepped down in December. The guys in the shop are great Americans and good friends. I was told there might be changes being made. They weren't. Morally and ethically, the lack of leadership and daily bullshit caused me to leave. One owner had me blocked on all social media while I was the director there, that is just great corporate culture there. Even when the Tomahawk rifle was the #1 SKU in 2024. And don't worry, I have all the proof of this. My lawyer said, as long as it's true, I can say it, which yes, truth is always the best defense against somebody coming at you with like a libel claim or whatnot. Sorry, does anyone on the panel own Sons of Liberty Gunworks?
I used to have one of their 13.7 uppers. It went on sale. I built it out, and it worked really well for the little while I had it. It printed very good groups, was reliable, and I liked it. It was one of their East India Trading Company uppers, where you know, it has like the gas block and tube and everything. You just put your own handguard on it, and I liked it for a while. I just didn't want a 13.7 anymore because I think they're kind of gay. Yeah,
it's an interesting barrel length for sure. No, so I've spent thousands of dollars at Sons of Liberty Gunworks for different parts, for customers' builds and whatnot. Personally, as somebody who buys from Sons of Liberty Gunworks, as somebody who has access to dealer pricing on their products, has given them to my own customers, I don't like that very much, not at all. Especially if obviously the claims are not that their individual parts might have been blems when they weren't supposed to be. If that was the case, and I got handed, secondary or components that didn't pass muster, and then I shipped them off to my customers unknowingly, would not be particularly happy about that.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah. So,
and are they?
Thanks, Sons of Liberty Gunworks.
I'm all for buying blems, but let me know that they're blems and hook me up.
Don't make me pay full price for the blems, please.
Allegedly.
Do they? do they make anything in house, or are they more of like an assembler? Because people are saying in chat they use ballistic advantage barrels, which is
So
essentially arrow.
they've used many different manufacturers. So yeah, they used to make, or they still use some ballistic advantage as an OEM. Their handguards are made by Zev/Mega, which I've also used a lot of their handguards and builds for customers. And their other components are made by different people, right? So you're going to see they assemble and design some components. How much do they actually make in house? I would warrant or wager very little.
I'm seeing a lot of
I know.
BCM enjoyers eating good tonight in chat. A lot of,
Yeah.
lot of BCM love going on.
BCM,
My fellow
BCM
brothers.
stays winning. Never lose.
Oh yeah,
It's the nothing ever happens crowd and the nothing ever changes crowd, but it's just with BCM.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just never
BCM.
change. And you never have a problem.
No, the only experience I've ever had with Sons of Liberty was people telling me they're very, very good, and then one guy saying that his gas rings went out insanely fast, and he was mad.
Well,
That's
that's
all I
probably
know.
because they sourced it from Microbest, and Microbest gas rings have a tendency to just go out very quickly. Now, Sons of Liberty Gunworks, I mean, like, unfortunately, they go down the route of Noveski in a lot of ways. This is a
Woman.
well, yeah, woman, but also like just pretty obvious side.
Guys, can we get this off the screen? I'm
Female.
really scared right now. This
Yeah,
is the most
calm down.
woman I've ever
Calm
seen.
down, gentlemen. But
I'm
they do
actively
the
getting psyoped.
Yeah.
how do we we call this tech-to-whore marketing, I think is the technical term for that. So they engage in some tomfoolery.
I never understood
Oh.
that. It's like, look, a hot lady holding a rifle, bro. Who fucking cares?
Well,
I-
actually, do you want me to tell you exactly why they think that is super cool?
Boomers.
It's this guy right here. This
Oh.
it speaks to this
This-
demographic.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nothing
Yeah.
says quality rifle like woman with boobies holding it. That's all I need to know, brother.
Brother. Anyways, here's your Blem rifle. Don't pay attention to that. Just check out the lady on the cover. And I think that was actually the company that Lucas was mentioning why he didn't want to work with them, specifically because of some of their marketing and the way they treated people. So I think that I thought he was talking about Noveski because they did the same thing, but apparently he was actually talking about Sons of Liberty Gunworks. So, oof, Mr. Sons of Liberty, probably gonna not recommend your stuff anymore. Well, I'd like to see you
Ouch.
respond personally.